We begin this video by looking at the table so far in the candidates after 5 rounds. Ian Nepomniachtchi is leading it with 3.5 out of 5. In this video, I will be looking at the game Nepom versus Liren. But firstly, who are these two players? Nepomniachtchi is currently ranked 5th in the world. He is from Russia with a rating of 2774 and he's 29 years old. Liren, he is from China, 3rd in the world with a rating of 2805 and he is 27. Let's check out this game now. The game began e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. We have a Spanish, a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castle, bishop e7, d3, b5, bishop b3, d6. a3, the first moment to have a short discussion. Other options are c3, and if knight a5, bishop c2, c5, knight d2, and then we have a slow maneuvering game we see often in the Spanish. But with this move a3, white is saying I'm going to tuck the bishop back to a2. So I will not be using time to move this pawn to c3. I will move the knight to c3 instead. a3, castle, and that is what happened in this game. Knight c3, knight a5. Firstly attacking the bishop and then playing bishop e6. When I first saw this position, I thought, why not c5? Typical for black in the Spanish to have the pawn chain c5, d6, e5. It's because white can now strike with b4. There will be some questions on this pawn chain. When the knight goes back to c6, knight can go to d5, and this knight is a useful attacker, also giving white the chance to play c3 to control the d4 square. If you play bishop e6, then c3, white has nice space in the center. The knight on d5 looks very strong, so if you get rid of it, it doesn't lead to a good position, because if you play bishop takes d5, ed5, when the knight moves, only square, then you can take on c5, and we have this problem. The pawn chain is falling, so if you go here, then knight e5. If knight d5, then queen f3 is possible, putting pressure on the knight with the queen and the bishop. Back to the game, bishop e6 played. b4 now. Taking on a2 and rook takes a2, knight c6. Has black wasted time? No. He has swapped off white's Spanish bishop and plans to attack the pawn chain with a5, even if he cannot get the c7 pawn to c5. Bishop g5, giving white the delightful outpost on d5. Queen d7, take, knight d5, and now a5, putting some questions on the a file. And here is the new move from Nepom, rook b2. In a previous game, c4 was played by Carlsen, so let's quickly have a look at this one. Knight e7, rook c2, take. White has the a file, but black has pressure on the b4 pawn. Queen d2, rook c1, h3. After h3, it looks like white is just doing really well. So let's see what happened. Rook a1, take, rook c1, rook a4, keeping the pressure. d4 striking in the center. And maybe Ding goes wrong here by capturing, allowing the knight into c6. And after queen c8, a really nice tactic coming up, e5, winning on the spot. You can't play bishop takes because knight e7 check. D takes, which was what happened in the game, d6. You can't play because knight e7 check. Discovery attack on the queen from the rook. So after d6, rook a8, knight e7 check, take, and he resigned. Because white will go here. Queen and rook provide enough pressure on the d file. The queen will come into d8 and then that's it. If you play f6 trying to get the king closer, then let's just check the king first. Queen d5 check, forcing the king in the corner, and rook d1 does it. If g6, a nice clean finish, is just a take on a8, then the rook can come to d8. Back to the game. Nepom played rook b2. This is his new move. Descending into a 13-minute fink. Take, and bishop d8. Very similar to what he did against Carlsen. Some of you may be wondering, why not knight f6 check here? Nothing to fear, because even though black has doubled pawns, after this, f5. This is the freeing move. Or else, black will be in big trouble, because if black doesn't play that, knight h4 to f5, very dangerous. So after a, b4, bishop d8, c4. This looks very similar to the game Carlsen versus Ding, as the rook was on c2 already. But what is Nepom's idea? We will see very soon. Knight d4 played. Ding is not fearing doubled pawns here, because he has the chance to play c6 to kick this knight away. It looks like a better version for Ding if we compare it to Carlsen's game. Knight d4, Ding is not fearing doubled pawns, take, queen c2. So here we have the difference. The queen and the rook are on the c and b file. Maybe this rook can come over to the b file or the c file to put pressure on the queen side. 11-minute think by Ding, and he played rook e8. Black can kick the knight away anytime with c6. So he plays rook e8 first, a useful move. Nepom goes g3. Two ideas with this move. The knight can go back to f4, so it's got protection from the g3 pawn. Or maybe he can play f4 later. B takes c4, queen c4, c6, kicking the knight away. Bishop g5, knight goes back. The pawn on d4, it is a future target, so black has to play very actively. d5, striking in the center, take, queen b3, h5. Ding plans to create weaknesses around the white king. b5, h4, it is a race. It is queenside play versus a kingside attack. b6, h3, setting up mating nets against the white king. The queen on d7, it has the chance to come into g4 to f3. King h1, giving white the chance to play knight g1 later, because the knight from g1 guards the f3 square, so tucking the king in the corner. Rook b8, rook b1, bishop d8, queen b5. White has a queenside majority, a passed pawn, so swapping off queens is a good strategy. Liren cannot accept this queen trade, so he plays queen g4, seeking some dynamic play, but this move is losing. Queen takes d5 was played by Nepom. There is a stronger move here with queen e8 check, trying to grab a few more pawns and controlling all the light squares. King h7, queen takes f7, guarding the f3 square. If rook b7, trying to deflect the white queen, queen takes d5, we are still guarding the f3 square. Rook a5 doesn't work because you can take the rook and it's still guarding f3. If rook b8, then f3, and then queen e4 comes with a check. The knight on e2 can take d4 later. Also, after f3, not too sure where this queen is going. If a move like queen g5, then you can just take off the queens and you'll just be so many pawns up. White is winning. Back to the game, queen takes d5 played, rook a5, again trying to deflect this queen off this diagonal, off the f3 square. Queen c6, rook c5. Here Ding missed a brilliant option, and it begins with this move. Rook takes b6. What is the idea? If rook takes b6, notice this rook on b2 is guarding this knight, so rook takes b6 is a deflection sacrifice. Take, queen takes e2, and it doesn't look like it works out because the queen on c6, it hasn't moved, it's still on this diagonal. So what is black's idea? White keeps attacking with rook b8. You can't go rook b2 because this move, it might look useful because it defends the f2 pawn, but white's king is too weak on the back. So this loses straight away. You can just take the rook, and then rook a1 will be mate next. After rook b8, rook e5. To just give up the bishop in this way, it was so difficult to spot. No wonder Ding did not find it. Rook takes d8 check, king h7, and is white lost? How do you stop mate? White has to find a tactical sequence to get rid of the h3 pawn, because you can't play queen c1, getting two pieces on the back, because this queen, it was guarding the f3 square, so queen f3 check, and then mate. Pause the video if you want to have a go. How can white find a tactical sequence to get rid of the h3 pawn? I will give you 5 seconds. The move is rook h8 check. Because the queen on c6 guards all exit squares, black has to take the rook. Queen c8 check, king h7, queen takes f3 check, king g6. Black is a pawn down, but his pieces are more active. Queen f1, defending both the f2 and the d3 pawn. Queen f3 check, king g1, rook e2. Black's queen and rook are more active than white's. Rook d1, and things are coming off. Black is down a pawn, time to get it back with rook takes f2, and after queen takes, queen d1 check. Queen f1, defending d3, and this will lead to a draw. Back to the game, rook c5 played, giving white a chance to win another pawn, so Nepom took it with queen e8 check, king h7, and knight g1. Firstly, guarding the f3 square once again. Queen takes f7 doesn't work because of rook f5, and then we're coming in. So knight g1 first. Rook takes b6, and the bishop on d8 is hanging, so he just took it. Queen takes d8 finishes off. After thinking for 18 minutes, Nepom found a clean way to win. Queen on d8 is so useful because the queen on g4 and the king on h7 are both in line for a check coming up. Rook takes b2, take rook c1. And now white finishes off with queen h4 check. Take, rook d1. White's final task is to get rid of black's asset on h3, which has been the asset the whole game. So how does white do this? He plays f3 and Ding had enough. It works out tactically. If rook takes d3, knight takes h3 works. It's 3 pawns each with a knight extra for white, and that is over. You can't take on f3 because knight g5 check. You can't bring the king closer because of knight f4 check. So the best line is this. After f3, even though Ding resigned, if we go king g6, rook b4, forcing rook takes d3 and knight takes h3. Rook takes f3, king g2, moving the rook away, and then that's it. White will be able to win this later. Let's check out the table. Ian is leading the candidates with 4.5 out of 6. In second place, Vacher Lagrave. A lot of people on 50%, including Caruana, Giri, Wang Hao, Grishuk. And in the bottom 2 places, Ding Liren and Alekseenko. If you enjoyed this video, why not like it and subscribe to the channel at the same time? Thank you so much for watching.